Donald Trump back in trial in New York City. Letitia James also there. But Trump took a break from the day's proceedings to came out and reveal to all of us that the government has been caught in a big lie. And we'll listen to what he had to say. We'll also peer inside the courtroom and run through the day's activities courtesy of 2 tweet threads that will run us through the trial. And to get us started, let's see what things looked like inside the courtroom. And here it is. Judge Engoran and his clerk that Trump can't comment on. Trump is seated there. We've got Alina Abba. Look at her right there. And Alina's in a turtleneck. Did you see that right there? Look at that turtleneck. What do you think about that? Is that a turtleneck? I think it is. What do you think about that turtleneck? I think it's pretty in vogue. Is that the thing? Now, the reason I wanted to bring it up, okay, on our members only stream, just yesterday, I believe, just yesterday, we were talking about how people dress and how women dress in particular. And I said something like, I happen to like when women dress a little bit conservatively because it leaves some things to the imagination. That was part of the conversation we were having. And that was yesterday. And guess what happened, my friends? Alina shows up to court in a turtleneck. That's the universe telling us something's cooking there. All right. So hello, Alina. You're doing a great job in the courtroom. Let's see how this looks. All right, so is Tishy in here? Whoa, we got a big camera flare. I don't see Tishy here. Normally she's sitting in the back of the courtroom, but not today. Not today. It's all the same people prosecuting. Look at all these people. Here's Trump. Oh, there's Trump. Oh, look at those nice cufflinks. Trump's sporting some cufflinks, man. Get to zoom in on the cufflinks. Sharp, Trump. Looking sharp. Looking good. And Alina's looking good in that turtleneck, man. I like it. Because it's going to give her more strength in her vocal cords for when she's making oral arguments in the trial, obviously. That's why. It's to strengthen her legal reasoning ability. That's all I'm saying. So here, let's see. Is Tishy here? Where's Tish? Oh, she's sitting by herself. Oh, in the back of the courtroom, as usual. Isn't that just amazing? So I don't know what she's doing there. Is she an observer? Maybe she should bring a law school student with her and they can learn about the trial together. Hey, any NYU interns, you should go join Letitia. You guys can learn about trial together. Shout out to our law school students. Oh man, and nobody wants to sit with Tish, man. How come? What gives? All right, cameras out of the courtroom. Get out. Trial starting. Get out of here. Oh man, why can't Tish? Why won't she sit up here and do some work? Okay, look, there's a lot of other people. They keep telling us that Tish is like this really brave, heroic, very competent leader of New York, the New York Attorney General's office. You know, if she's not going to be doing trial, if she's not going to be participating, does she need to be there? Like, really? You know, other cases where the county attorney or the attorney general are not there, they're not actually there. You know, they don't actually show up, but she's there. She's just not participating. She's behind the bar. She's in the back of the courtroom. It's a strange thing, but anyways. All right, so that's Tishy. Now, we're going to go through the trial thread, but when they had a break in the morning, Trump came out and he said that the morning session involved them getting caught in a big lie. Not Trump, the government. Here's what he said.
Government, through its witness, just got caught in a big, fat lie.
Yeah.
Frankly, this case should be dismissed. It should have never been brought. This case should have never been brought. And this case should be dismissed. This is ridiculous, what's going on. And all you have to do is take a look at the record of the people in the room.
Are you coming back tomorrow, sir? Mr. President, are you coming back tomorrow?
Big fat lie. And they exit the courtroom. All right, and so that's what it looked like in the courtroom. We've got the whole crew there. Trump's looking good, nice cufflinks. Alina has a nice shirt on. Judge is ready to go. Tish is all alone. Nobody wants to sit with her, and she's got other people doing the actual work on the case. Now we're there. Adam Klasfeld is reporting. He tells us Trump is expected to return to trial, and he was there. Letitia is there in court. Of course, she was sitting alone. All of her actual competent people doing the hard work were sitting up in front of the bar. Trump and his attorneys haven't arrived yet, but the first in is Alina Abba and Christopher Keese. Now, photojournalists and videographers enter, but before they come in, the judge is in the courtroom. He says, hello, everybody. All right, it's good to be here. It's, happy Wednesday. He says, hey, people in the front row, this is the judge speaking. You're going to be in the background of these photos. I just want to warn you. And they're like, yeah, we know. That's why we're here. So he says, now each of these daily photography sessions usually begins with a joke from the judge. Now, recordings barred during the trial, so we just get to see the inside for a minute and then they kick take us out. Now, court is back in session. The bailiff, the court clerk says, we're back on the record. Cases United New York Attorney General's Office, State of New York versus Donald Trump and Trump Organization and so on. Whatever the case is, CV 2023, blah, blah, blah. Says, all right, back on the stand. Doug Larson. Mr. Larson, you understand you're still under oath? Yes, I do. Okay. He's back on the stand. Now, we have this conversation about competing appraisals. Okay. One guy says this is worth this. The other guy says this is worth that. And they have a debate about it. Now, the question comes out. Trump's lawyer is cross-examining him. This guy is somebody who evaluates properties. So Trump says to Mr. Doug Larson, he says, hey, Mr. Larson, isn't it true that you undervalued 40 Wall Street by $114 million? Isn't that true? No. So you're saying that you didn't write a report where you undervalued 40 Wall Street by $114 million? No, I didn't. So if I showed you a report that said, he says, no, I didn't. A third try and a third answer in the negative. So he says, our values were not wrong. No. So I didn't undervalue it. Our value was not wrong. Tries again. Objection from the government prosecutors, which maybe this could have come earlier, but is, objection asked and answered, meaning you already asked him the fourth, the time. The judge says, well, I'm going to give him some latitude on this. It's a bench trial, so it's okay. I know what's going on. In other words, the jury is not going to be prejudiced by the same question being asked over and over again. So he tries again. So he says, well, let me rephrase this. I want to rephrase the question. And the witness agrees that the conclusions would follow those assumptions. So he's saying, look, if I gave you this number and I gave you that number and I gave you this number, isn't it true that you could come to a calculation that looks like this? And he says, yeah, if I had the assumptions that that number was that, then sure, I could see how that number could be that. Okay, thank you. Now, Jeff stands up. No, actually, same lawyer. This is an email about Jeff. So Trump's lawyer is still cross-examining this guy who's doing evaluations. And he says, I want to show you this email, Mr. Doug Larson, from Jeff McConney to you. Okay. It was dated back in 2013, August 5th. Do you remember that? Maybe. Would it refresh your recollection? Here, yeah, sure. I want to read you this letter. It says, it's an email. It's, I hope you are well. It's that time of year again. Would you, Doug, be able to send me a current report similar to the one that was attached for the Midtown Class A buildings and also one for the downtown Class A buildings, like 40 Wall Street in parentheses? Now, they're saying, wait a minute, there's an email here. Trump's team is popping up this email, August 5th, 2013, it's right here. But Adam Klasfeld says, remember that prior in the testimony, Doug Larson, the guy who's on the stand, denied having a conversation with McConney. Larson says, I never talked to McConney about 40 Wall Street. They've got an email that says you did. Larson replied to the McConney in an email. Uh-oh, and he attached a spreadsheet. That's the big lie that Trump was talking about. The government witness says, I didn't talk to the person, and he sent him an email with an Excel spreadsheet or something. McConney sent Larson another email in September. And so Trump's lawyers are just beating him up right now bad, saying, wait a minute, isn't it true you said you never talked to McConney about 40 Wall Street? Yeah. Never, not once. Never, not once. Maybe that's why they were asking him the question 4 times. And so you didn't, because they knew this was coming, right? They asked him the question. They were just really trying to pin him down on, I didn't do anything. I didn't know anything. And then they're going to hit him with the emails, one after the other. So you didn't make any evaluation? That's curious. Because we got this one email from August, it has your name on it that you responded to, and another one from September 15th, apparently asking about the cap rate issue, which was the subject of yesterday's testimony. The email says the following: if we have a property with a ground lease that expires in 2079, McConney asked, this must be from the Trump org, would that affect the cap rate in any way if the lease goes out way far? And he's getting squirrely with this answer. Okay, we don't really see what the answer is. And Trump's lawyer says, so you lied yesterday, didn't you? And Christopher Keese, Trump's other lawyer, and says, hey, Your Honor, by the way, this witness has rights. This is spicy, man. So just so we're clear, you lied yesterday. You said you didn't talk to him. You did talk to him multiple times, and you said that the cap rate was a certain limit, but we say that you could have interpreted it differently. And you just told me 4 times that your values were not wrong based on all of those other assumptions. And now I'm showing you, man, this guy is totally busted. You lied yesterday. So Trump's other lawyer is jumping up. Hey, this witness has rights. Somebody needs to advise him of perjury. Okay, if he answers this question, he might be incriminating himself. So read him his Miranda rights. Okay, so Christopher Keese is saying, don't let this testimony get bad because this client is claiming my rights were violated or something, right? Trump's lawyers lawyers are actually defending this guy against perjuring himself, right? And this is like exploding. So here he jumps up, judge, advise this man of perjury. He's about to incriminate himself. And he said, you lied yesterday. So it all just explodes. Now, after a furious objections from the state, so Tishy's lawyers, not even Tishy, she's behind the bar. She's like, I'm just like observing. I have no idea what's happening here. Practicing her stupid speech for later. After furious your objection, the judge says, all right, Mr. Larson, you're excused for a moment. All right, please leave here while we sort this out. Now, after the witness leaves, Trump's lawyer's Keese tells the judge flatly, says, I think he needs to be advised of potential perjury. Okay, that dude just lied to all of us, judge. Now, the government lawyer accuses Keese of performing for the press in the gallery. He's like, you're just making a big show of this. You embarrassed us with our lying witness. And you're doing it for the press. Do they want to gag him too against asking questions to lying witnesses? These prosecutors, man, they're all the same. So Keese says, whether they're concerned about his rights or not, judge, I certainly am. All right, so the government called this guy. They put him on the stand. He's lying to us, is our opinion. And they may not care if he perjures himself, which is like a disgusting thing, right? The government is going to set up their own witness to lie and then get charged with a crime. They know that they're not going to charge him with a crime for lying for them, essentially, but you get the point. So that's why they don't care. They're like, this dude's lying through his teeth for us, right? In Trump's team's opinion, right? He's lying. According to them, he's telling the truth. We'll see. So the government notes that the emails are not from the years at issue. You see how dishonest they are? So they're saying, well, we're only talking about 2016, Your Honor. He was talking about 2013, so it's not relevant. And says the government does not care about this witness's Fifth Amendment rights. This is a performance. That must be Christopher Keese, right? They're throwing this guy to the wolves. And the government says, no, Your Honor, I think this is a performance for the press that's seated behind us, which is an insane thing to say. Like if a witness is lying, right, that is standard trial practice. You impeach a witness with their prior inconsistent statements. There's rules about all this. And so he says that I did something. You say, no, I've got documents and evidence that you didn't. And so your credibility is now shot and you're a liar is what they called him. So Engoran questions why Keese is raising this concern, which isn't in the defense's interest of getting the witness to speak, right? This is why this is conflicted. This is like it feels like a weird move because it's an adverse witness. So the defense is almost protecting the government's witness. Actually is. And Letitia James and her lawyers are just like, whatever, man. This guy can lie through his teeth. We're not going to prosecute him, so what do we care? But Engoran, he's asking Christopher Keese, like, what do you care about this guy for? And he invites Larson's attorney, so the actual witness has an attorney. He says, sir, you're here. Do you want to speak about this? The attorney says that she would like to speak to him because he's been accused of perjury. Yeah, so the defense attorney's like, well, my client just got accused of perjury, so I got to go talk to him. And Engoran says, hey, if he's perjuring himself, this is the judge speaking, then he's perjuring himself. If not, he has nothing to worry about. That's pretty simple. So he orders the witness back to the stand. That's okay. Interesting. So he says, well, if he's lying, he's lying. And if he's not going to worry about it. So that's the end of the story. Bring the witness back. And I think the judge probably knows that Tish is not going to prosecute him. And they all like the lies. So they'll just let it go. So they bring back the witness and they put him back on the stand. Sir, you're still under oath. You understand? Yeah. Hey, Miss Court Reporter, can you please recite what happened here? Where did we leave off? He says, okay, it was the Trump defense lawyer saying, you lied yesterday. That was his witness. Question mark. Okay, back over to you. Government says, objection, Your Honor. Look, there's the discrepancy in the dates, okay? He is asking about 2013, and this was about trying to prosecute Trump for 2016. And so they're trying to narrow the hula hoop. So Trump's lawyer rephrases the question. And before that gets in, Christopher Keese derides the state's speaking objection. He says, would you like to write out the answer for the witness? Okay, so like they're giving the witness the answer. Okay, so the witness, they're going to beat up the witness over this. So you lied yesterday. They're actively like coaching him. No, objection, Your Honor. It's about the dates. And the witness is like, oh yeah, the dates. Cool. So when he asks me the question about this, I'm just going to say I didn't lie because it was about the dates, right? So she just fed him the answer and the judge is allowing it to happen. Will you quit your speaking objections? Will you quit telling him the answers when you object? Just say I object, then make your objection like the reason for the objection, but like the label of the objection, but not the full argument underlying the objection. So he says, would you like to write it out too? Would you like to get a whiteboard and some sticky notes? Okay, we know Molly Gaston over at the DOJ likes her highlighters. Would you like some of those? So Trump's lawyer then displays the witness's testimony on direct, puts it on the screen. He says, all right, here's what I asked you. Did you work with Mr. McConney in 2013 to determine the cap rate that he used to value the property? That was the specific question. No, I did not. They got emails from August and September that say you did. Larson reverses himself on this notation, all right? They say, wow. So this was part of the entire argument of this trial. This thing is such a scam. Remember that this was the argument. They said that somebody entered a note into a log somewhere at the Trump organization that said, based on the information provided by Douglas Larson, the guy who's on the stand, he works with Cushman Wakefield, they say it reflects a rate cap of 3.04 for 100 Wall Street based on a telephone conversation with Doug Larson 2016. Since the ground lease still has about 190 years left, the effect on the cap rate is minimal. To be conservative, we increased the cap rate from 0.25 to 3.29%, right? And what they were saying here is that this was all fake. They were saying that Trump's team wrote that whole story out and it was fake so that they could have some backing, right? So they could say, oh no, we talked to experts, Douglas Larson from Cushman and Wakefield, and he said this and he said this, and therefore our valuations can be calculated accordingly with this cap rate and that, right? But they said that never happened. And Larson said that never happened. Turns out Larson reverses himself on this notation. So what you said, that is inaccurate, that is fake, that's not true. That could actually be a real entry, right? He says, yeah, I guess it might be because you have my emails. Noting that the language does fall short of stating that it's Larson's valuation. Yeah, so that actually could be real, but I'm not actually sure that it was mine. He says it claims to be based on information that Larson provided and the interpretation that the witness finds credible. Okay, so now he's saying, well, I might have come up with those numbers from other things. And so Trump's lawyers, man, crush this guy and crush the government. This is outstanding. And this is why they're freaking out. So cross-examination ends. He's like, no further questions. Thanks for admitting that this whole thing is actually real and that you did have conversations about all this stuff. Brutal. So cross-examination ends, and now there's a morning recess. Trump comes out, educates the media about the government and their big fat lie that they just got caught in, and they continue on. Now, Trump's other lawyer, called Cliff Roberts, represents Donald Trump's son, Eric and Don Jr., and so he wants to also get some cross-examination in. He says, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to answer yes or no to these questions. You understand that? Yes, I do. All right, Mr. Larson, did you meet with the New York Attorney General's office, Big Letitia James, over, she's the biggest Tish in New York, by the way. That's her name, Tish James, which she has her Twitter account under that. So the biggest Tish in Georgia says here, did you meet with Big Tish James on Monday? Yes. More than one? Let me ask you this. Did you meet with New York Attorney General attorneys on Monday? Yes. More than one of them? Yes. More than two of them? Yes. Did your lawyers have conversations with Tishy's office? Yes. And you would agree with me that Tishy's office showed you your name in the spreadsheets, right? Yes. After Cliff Robert asked the lawyer, they didn't do that, did they? Judge says, don't ask questions in the negative. So he says, all right, let me rephrase it. Do you have emails? He says, I want to ask you about the emails of Larson's communications with McConney, the same emails we just heard of previously. Mr. Larson, the first time you saw those emails is today. Is that right? Yes. Now, it's also true that those emails did not come up at a pretrial meeting. Like you didn't know that before. And he probably says no. Now, Robert asks if the Tish office, if the New York Attorney General's office, did they allow you to operate under the quote illusion that you never cooperated with McConney? Did Tish's office allow you to think that you never talked to McConney? And he says, well, I don't know. Well, what do you mean by illusion? So we don't know how he answered that, but they continue. So they get Larson to admit, the appraiser, so it's true that you changed the valuation of 40 Wall Street down from 200 million, you raised it up to 220 million. Is that true? You did that? Back and forth. He says no. He agrees it's not a typo, and then he agrees that the appraisals can be subjective. So Trump's lawyer, actually this is Eric's Trump's lawyer, but the defense says, hey, Mr. Larson, 40 Wall Street's a beautiful building, isn't it? The Trumpian query props some laughter in the gallery. They're like, oh. And apparently he says yes, or who knows what he says, but it ends. Now, the government lawyers are back up, and so they're trying to fix this for him. Mark Ladov shows the witness his email exchange with McConney. So Tish's lawyers are back up. They say, Mr. Larson, you've been accused of perjury. We want to show that he's been consistent, which is why we want to show the email exchanges. Key says, I never accused the witness of perjury. Yeah, he needs to be advised of potential perjury, but not saying that he committed perjury. You better advise him because he might be committing it any minute now. So Engoran picks up on Keith's distinction. He says, I said potential perjury. The lawyer suggested that the state was leading him into potential perjury. Didn't make the accusation that he had already committed it. That's why he made the warning. Now Keith points back over to their counsel and says, now he's just reading things for the press, Judge. Now he's just reading. Now Keith is objecting. He says, Your Honor, this is insane. Okay, they keep reading their own leading questions into the record on redirect. It's highly improper. The objection is hearsay and we stick to rules, at least on this side of the table. And Engoran recites the rule, overrules him, gives it back to Tishy. So Larson's testimony ends. Tish's office shows earlier emails emails and comments suggesting that he had been consistent in his account. And so, next witness up is a big one. Afternoon session continues. We're back, and we've got People versus Trump. Now, Jack Weisselberg, who is Alan Weisselberg's son, who was already convicted, takes the stand. Tish's lawyer, not Tish, her name is Colleen Faherty. She leads the direct examination. They just get started. They break for lunch. And we're back. The New York Attorney General has the witness run down the lingo. What do fixed rate loans mean? What do pooling loans mean? What does a senior tranche mean? What are junior tranches? And other such terms. Very complicated. Testimony has been just setting the stage, a lot of stuff, right? You can read more about it. Now they get to the evidence. Okay, now we know what all this stuff means. Hey, Mr. Allen, who used to work at the Trump org, want to ask you about this email from October 19, 2011. Here's the email. It says, Allen to Jack. So Jack is Alan's son. Okay, so son to dad. Let me make sure I'm right on that. Yeah, Jack is the son. Alan is the father. So Jack sends an email. So father sends an email to Jack, just to be clear. Dad sends to son, October 19th. Hey son, as discussed, we're looking forward for a forward commitment in the amount of $65 million and a term of 10 years to take effect August 2012. Thanks, talk to you soon. Oh man, not even love you, dad. Oh, that's kind of rude. So anyways, he says, now the son is a director at Ladder Capital. So Jack Weisselberg works at Ladder Capital. Alan Weisselberg works for the Trump org. So the son is going to be providing dad some funds, essentially. And so here is what the email says. Subject line for the email is TTCOML, October 2011, rent roll 5-year projection. So Jack, the son, says the TT-COML is short for Trump Tower commercial loan, one that was ultimately effectuated. So the son is helping provide capital. The email appears to show the father on the borrowing side, working for Trump, engaging with his son on the lending side on a 10-year, $65 million loan. Okay, here's another email. Here's the body of another email. So father from Trump sends to son at this capital, hey, please note that the numbers reflected in the projection includes a license fee payment from the producers of The Apprentice, shown as $500,000. However, the real value of the 2 floors is $100 per square foot or $2.8 million or an additional $2.29 to the bottom line. Additionally, the Trump org occupies about $37,000 equal to $2.7 million to the bottom line as well. Dad to son. So Christopher Keese now is raising objections. Objection, Your Honor. They're talking about these charges from 2011. This is an email from 2011 outside the statute of limitations. Doesn't even apply here. Overruled by the judge. He says, no, they can show a pattern or a practice, so they can just gobble these all up together and bundle them. Now, Trump is visibly displeased, crosses his arms tightly, shakes his head. After a mid-afternoon recess, Trump is not back, okay? Court breaks, Trump is not back. We get an email from Jeff McConney. So the other guy who was sending emails to Larson, Doug Larson, he sends one to Jack. Okay, so again, Trump org to a loan officer who's going to help them get a loan, 2015. Alan Weisselberg, dad, is copied. Hey, Jack, from McConney. Attached is the 4th loan modification along with a summary which will tell you how to complete the fair market value rent a few years from now. Then the government says, I want you to identify a signature here. Now, there's a signature on one of these documents. Who is that? Witness says, that's Donald John Trump. But he's not at the table. And they say, well, he was there, but he left. Now, testimony turns back over to 40 Wall Street and trial ends for the day. Jack Weisselberg is in the middle of a direct exam, and we'll see more about where the story goes. So we'll pick up tomorrow with the cross-examination of this same guy, and we'll see if Trump is back in session. If you want more of the documents, you can get them. This is another Twitter thread that was also good with some more screenshots of some of the documents, and so you can check that out on the mind map. The mind map you can access at robertgovea.com. Sign up for the daily newsletter, get access to the mind map, and you can browse all of this at your leisure. But when Trump was done with the trial, he came out and he communicated that he's very unhappy with what he saw from the judge, and this is what it sounded like.
We have no rights whatsoever. Any company coming to New York would be crazy because it's a setup. There's a rigged trial. We have a hostile group of people. We have a very hostile judge. I hate to say it. We have a very, very hostile judge, and I think everybody knows that, and we see that. But the good thing is we have all of the evidence on our side. They have nothing. And it's a case that should have never been brought. I just read many, many articles saying this case is a disgrace to our nation.
It is a disgrace, along with many other of the trials that are also a disgrace. Of course, my friends, we are going to continue to cover this and more. We've got a lot of trials coming up. We've also got Sidney Powell's coming up starting next week. And so thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing this with a friend or family member so that they can come over and see what is happening. See what these people are doing to Trump, because they're not showing what's happening inside the courtroom elsewhere. And we're grateful to help people wake up to the disgusting behaviors of these people who are prosecuting Trump.